Goodness comes and evil goes.
Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that that will bring for African people on the face of this earth. Karibu, welcome. My name is Kwende, and today we're going to get into another important subject, and that subject is Omowale Malcolm X and Kwanzaa. African people have been blessed to be at the forefront of high culture in this world. High culture, or more accurately, the highest culture that humanity has ever come to know. The most long-lasting thrust of cultivation that produced nation after nation of excellence and thriving, all gifted, of course, by the ultimate divine, the supreme creative force of the universe. Unfortunately, in this time, we've seen much by way of disruption, and certainly in the last several centuries or more, there's been a horrific onslaught by others that mean the African no good to strip away natural cultural fabric. Out of that, the African still rises. And in the 60s, a group called the US Organization began a process of creative restoration to pull together, to synthesize the best of African culture from the most ancient of times through to contemporary times and across geographical space. That creative restoration process gave us the wonderful observance we know as Kwanzaa, that begins on the 26th of December and runs through until the 1st of January. But what has that got to do with the great hero Omowale Malcolm X? Well, in order to explain that, and all we're going to do is scratch the surface on this, just briefly, we're going to just read a articulation from the leader of the US Organization on what he had to say regarding the impact of Omowale Malcolm X. He says, in the 60s, we had stood up seeing ourselves as descendants of Malcolm, with an awesome obligation to wage the revolution he had conceived and called for. We thus saw ourselves as servants and soldiers of the people, always on post and on point, wherever called and needed. Indeed, our motto is, anywhere we are, us is. We declared revolution the answer and ourselves the agent of this radical change. As Simba Wachanga, young lions, we self-confidently declared we are the last revolutionaries in America. If we fail to leave a legacy of revolution for our children, we have failed our mission and should be dismissed as unimportant. Even older, the message retains its original meaning and urgency, as we remain ever grounded in our culture, unbudging in our blackness, and steadfast in our fight to create a just, good, and sustainable world and help rebuild the movement to achieve this. For as we say, if not then, what? And if we don't do it, who will? So those then are the words from the leader of the US organization that led the creative restoration process that gave rise to the wonderful observance we know as Kwanzaa. And he says that we saw ourselves as descendants of Malcolm, or maybe more accurately, ascendants of Malcolm. And he charted, articulated the inheritance of mission to wage a cultural revolution for African souls of the world. This is a wonderful gift of Kwanzaa. And it shows just how impactful the great hero that we have in Omowale Malcolm X is to empower the African world by restoring living culture in our lives. So whether we happen to be in the Americas, whether we happen to be in the islands, the so-called Caribbean, more accurately the islands of New Africa, whether we happen to be in the UK or in Europe, whether we happen to be on African soil itself, further east of Africa, wherever in the world African souls are, the impact, the energizing, the inspiration that comes from such a special hero can be felt and is made manifest when we celebrate Kwanzaa, when we engage in the value system referred to as the Nguza Sabbath, 7 principles. Omowale Malcolm X indeed lives on in the cultured African soul. So with that food for thought, and surely it is food for thought, Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that that will bring for African people wherever we happen to be on the face of this earth.
The sun who has returned home for Africans back on top. The sun who has returned home for Africans back on top. The sun who has returned home for Africans back on top. The sun who has returned home for Africans back on top.